Hi, I'm Enchanting Nubianette. Welcome back. One of the best writers of television shows, Norman Lear, passed away at 101 years old on Tuesday, December 5th. He was born on July 7th, 1922. During his childhood, there were several hardships, especially growing up in a Jewish household back then. Norman Lear's father was sent to jail for using fraudulent bonds, and his family was split up and he needed to live with distant relatives. Even at 9 years old, Norman Lear recognized his calling. It happened when he began listening to radio broadcasting. Also, he was forced to grow up fast and obtain responsibilities of a man. As a teenager, he participated in comedic plays at school. Norman Lear identified his natural gift of writing and wrote his own plays. He wrote a powerful speech and won a full college scholarship. Soon afterwards, Norman Lear was enrolled in Emerson College in Boston. Norman Lear's writing was far ahead of the times. Interestingly enough, he was a college dropout though. And luckily, he knew his life purpose at an early age. Before I continue the story, please remember to hit the notification bell, like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Norman Lear left Emerson College in his second or sophomore year to enlist in the Army. There he served 3 years as a radio operator. In his earlier years, Norman Lear wrote comedic scenarios and lines from many famous comedians such as Jackie Gleason of the Honeymooners, Abbott and Costello, Dean Martin, and Jerry Lewis. He's another favorite of my mom and I. And as a girl, I remember watching Jerry Lewis's movies, The Nutty Professor, Cinderfella, The Errand Boy, and tons of others. Pure laughs. Norman Lear was a newcomer in the film and television industry when he wrote and directed many shows. But he was far from being a novice. Actually, he was considered a brazen and gifted genius. What do I mean by that? In all of these television sitcoms, Norman Lear gave mention or highlighted racism, politics, different sexuality, adult physical relations, religion, and other risky topics. Other TV writers were not willing to push the envelope, so he stood out in the forefront and gained notoriety amongst diverse communities all over the United States. And on the flip side, some politicians, religious leaders, and conservative people gave him a lot of pushback. As you all know, television executives had limited amount of roles for anyone who wasn't Caucasian. Their roles portrayed stereotypes and very few were given the opportunity for long-term success. Thankfully, Norman Lear noticed new artists and some who were up and coming. He offered them an opportunity to excel in their gift of acting. Norman Lear was a creator of some of my favorite TV shows like Sanford and Son, about a low-income African-American elderly father who owned a junkyard with his son, which aired in 1972. And when I was a child, viewing his television shows gave me so much entertainment and piqued my curiosity about adult life too. My family and I relied on the variety of weekly sitcoms. My mother gravitated to the show Maude with Bea Arthur, which had an older cast and dry humor. Whereas I watched the spin-off Good Times in 1974. Good Times was and still is one of the top vintage TV shows for many African Americans to watch. And I still watch episodes on Amazon TV and YouTube. The entire cast were great, like John Amos, Esther Rolle, Jimmy Walker, Janet Jackson, and others. And in 1975, One Day at a Time series was about a divorced single mother with children. Even more shocking was that the single mother discussed adult topics with her teen daughters. She also had a boyfriend who slept overnight. This was considered modern but unorthodox, that type of family. Norman Lear's third African American TV series titled The Jeffersons featured the first interracial couple with actors Sherman Hemsley, Isabel Sanford, Roxy Roca, Lenny Kravitz's mom, Franklin Cover, Paul Benedict from England, Marla Gibbs, and others. In one of the episodes, Sherman Hemsley is reunited with an old male friend whose name was Eddie, who became a woman named Edie. Surprising and respectfully, Edie was accepted by George Jefferson. Then All in the Family was aired on CBS in January 1971 before The Jeffersons. And for the fans of this show, they acknowledged Archie Bunker's sarcasm and Edith's whiny voice, which consisted of the off-the-chain humor. Archie Bunker he didn't like anyone who wasn't Caucasian like himself. But during the season 2, All of the Family ended up being the #1 show. And like most fans, I enjoyed watching or viewing the clever methods that Norman Lear used to teach Archie a lesson. His prideful and ignorant character was entertaining. Archie Bunker ate humble pie during every episode. And there were life lessons in each topic that everyone could learn from. And as a youngster, I was introduced to specific relationship and social issues that my parents did not enlighten me about. I remember watching George Jefferson getting an attitude and constantly calling the character Tom names. To be exact, these were racial slurs. They are racial slurs. There was an episode on The Jeffersons that left me stunned. There was a Caucasian man who fainted or had a sudden medical episode. He was a member of a group that was racist. George Jefferson gave the man mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. It was because of George he survived. Yet, when the Caucasian man learned that it was George who revived him, having his mouth over his and providing the air, the man said he wished he had passed away instead. Maybe I was enrolled in middle school by then. However, I didn't know or ever experience hate like that. My neighborhood in Brooklyn was very diverse. I had friends who were Latina from the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Panama, from India, the Caribbean, from Italy, and other African Americans. My mom enjoyed all of Norman Lear's shows also, and one of her favorites was the show Maude, whose character was played by B. Arthur. It was a spin-off from All in the Family, which aired in 1972. Years later, I gravitated to the Golden Girls TV series, which aired in 1985 throughout 1992. The cast was B. Arthur, Betty White, Rue McClanahan, and Estelle Getty. They were superb. And in 1982, Embassy Television, Norman Lear's company, was formed with Jerry Perenchio. They bought Avco Embassy Pictures and joined it with TAT Communications. The Embassy Television Company featured more of my favorite shows, like Different Strokes, The Facts of Life, 227, Who is the Boss, Married with Children, and numerous others. Most of his shows became really popular, as you know. However, dozens of others flopped, especially in the early years. And by the early 1980s, Norman Lear became a full-fledged activist to ensure that actors, writers, directors, and producers were able to exercise their First Amendment rights in their shows. He and others pushed back at the government and religious representatives and other conservatives. Even more impressive, he founded the Norman Lear Center, which provided mentorship to a multitude of television writers in Hollywood. The center still assists writers to shape and even improve their stories. And as a result, most shows reach a larger audience and became even more successful. His company is still active in over 20 years. Overall, I'm pleased that my mother watched these TV shows, which introduced me to out-of-the-box topics. His work wasn't typical on television, especially in those early years and for children. May he rest in peace. And please remember to hit the notification bell, like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks a million, and stay safe wherever you are.